welcome to Lesson 17 in Palabras. These are the contents of the lesson: the vocabulary and the past perfect, okay, or how to say something that has happened, okay. In this lesson, you're going to learn to use the past perfect, and you're going to practice it with by making complete sentences. This type of learning, this way of learning the tenses of the verbs, allows you to use them correctly, but without having to memorize the grammatical rules that apply. And therefore, with this system, it is easy to learn to speak English. Let's look at vocabulary. We have the normal amount of vocabulary, a lot of. Okay, it's a very good one. Abundante. A lot of. Okay, amount, worth, total. Well, you know the rules. You have to learn all these off by heart. Rarely study the vocabulary, because it's very important. Okay, without vocabulary, you cannot speak. Okay, so you have here, for example, look, mais c'est possible. Okay, this is a modal verb. Might, very important modal verb. Okay, it's all very good for conversation. Sim, también, parece que, okay. We'll say appear or seem, very similar. Parece, similar to the Spanish. Okay, the past perfect, or how to say that something had happened. In lessons 15 and 16, you learned the present perfect, or how to say something had happened in the past. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to say that something has passed. Okay, we call it the past perfect. Okay, past perfect. Okay, the past perfect is constructed in the same way as the present perfect. That's to say, you put the verb to have and place the principal verb in the past participle. Okay, the past participle, which for regular verbs you add ed, and irregular verbs, well, sabes es más difícil. It's more difficult, but you've learnt your irregular verbs in previous lessons. Okay. It sounds complicated, but look how easy it is. So I had worked. Había trabajado. You had worked. He had worked. She had worked. It had worked. So the difference between here and the present perfect. Present perfect. I have worked. You have worked. He has worked. So now we're using the pasado of el verbo tener, to have, haber, okay? Had, the auxiliary verb to have, the pasado, had. And it's all the same. Third person singular, también. It had worked, she had worked, he had worked. The only thing that is important in English is to remember, for example, in Spanish, if you say yo había trabajado, okay, entonces no necesitamos decir yo. We say había trabajado, okay, or habíamos trabajado, okay. But in English, we have to use the subject pronoun I. So this is the only difference. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Everything else is exactly the same. I had worked, you had worked, he had worked. Let's look at it in the negative. Okay, exactly the same as the present perfect. I have not worked, I had not worked, you had not worked, he had not worked. Okay? Remember that had not contracts to hadn't. Okay? So let's work on the contraction of this. I had, I'd, you'd, he'd, she'd. It had, no, I am contraction. Okay? We'd, you'd, and they'd. Okay? No, remember that. Okay? So these are the I had not worked, you had not worked, or I hadn't worked, you hadn't worked, he hadn't worked, she hadn't worked, it hadn't worked. We, I, it's a contraction and negative, okay? In positive and we don't really contract it, okay? It had worked. Bueno, bueno. It hadn't worked. Is bueno. We hadn't worked. You hadn't worked, and they hadn't worked. Okay. No contractions in the interrogativo. Okay. Had I worked? Had you worked? Had she worked? Had he worked? Etc. Etc. Okay. Now we're gonna have a look. Just quick look at some explanations, and we're going to look on my favorite site, which is English Club, englishclub.com. Go to English Club, look for grammar, look for tenses, look for past perfect tense. So I had sung, okay? Cantar, participle, past participle, sing, sang, sung. I had sung. Now let's read this. The past perfect tense is quite an easy tense to understand and to use. And this tense talks about the past in the past. This is more importante. The past in the past. Okay? So let's look at the structure. The structure. How do we make the past perfect tense? Well, the structure of the past perfect tense is, well, we've seen this in Palabras, okay? The auxiliary verb have, conjugated in simple past tense, had, okay? So we have the subject. I had finished mi trabajo. Había terminado mi trabajo. Okay? You had stopped, okay, before me, antes de mí. She had not gone to school. We had not left. Had you arrived? Had they eaten dinner? Okay, when speaking with the past perfect tense, we often contract the subject and auxiliary verb. So I'd, you'd, he'd, she'd, it'd. Muy difícil esta. Huh? It had. Posible is male. We'd and they'd, okay? Okay, so here's an English tip. The D contraction is also used for the auxiliary verb would. For example, we'd can mean we had or we would. But usually the main verb is in a different form. So we had arrived. This is past participle. Pero después de would, okay, would is a modal verb. Siempre arrive. Okay? Siempre el infinitivo del verbo sin tú después de modales. So we would arrive. Okay? So it's always clear from the context of the sentence what is the difference between we had, or we would. Siempre, es claro, siempre from the context, del contexto. Okay, how do we use the past perfect tense? Okay, the past perfect tense expresses action in the past before another action in the past. So this is the past in the past. For example, the train left the station at 9 a.m. Oh, we arrived at the station at 9:15 a.m. Entonces, when we arrived, the train had left. Okay? So these are the two actions in the past. The train leaves, hmm? And we arrive. Two actions in the past. The first action in the past is the train leaving. And the second action is us arriving. Okay? 15 minutes later. Okay? So when we arrived, the train had left. The train had already left. Okay? Here's some more examples. I wasn't hungry. I had just eaten. Okay? I had just eaten. Had eaten. I had eaten. Okay? So two actions in the past. I was hungry. Oh, I wasn't hungry. I had just eaten. Okay? I wasn't hungry. One action in the past. The primero action, the first action in the past was me eating. Okay? Okay, you can sometimes think of the past perfect tense like the present perfect tense, but instead of the time being now, the time is past. Okay? So it's all in the past, whereas the present perfect tense is the past and now. Okay? Okay? So here's the example. Okay? This is using the present perfect. Imagine that you arrive at the station at 9:15 and the station master says to you, the station master, the jefe de estación, okay, says to you, lo siento, pero you are too late. You are too late. The train has left. Okay? This is happening now, en este momento. Okay? You arrive at the station and the jefe says, lo siento, pero you're too late. The train has left. And later, más tarde, you're speaking to your friends. You're telling your friends the story. You say, huh, we were too late. The train had left. Okay? The train had already left. Okay, here are some of the verbs we use in reported speech. Okay, he told us that the train had left. He told us, el jefe de estación, he told us that the train had left. Okay, two actions in the past, the train leaving, us arriving. Or, in this case, the station master telling us, okay, that we were too late. So the first action, we arrive at the station and the train has gone. The second action, in the pasado, the station master telling us that we were too late. The train has gone. Okay, let's look at some of the exercises. Okay, change the following sentences to the past perfect. After changing to the past perfect negative, and finally to the past perfect interrogative. Okay, so I danced. I had danced. I had not danced. Had I danced? She goes to the theater. She goes to the theater. Ella va al teatro. Ella había ido al teatro. She had gone to the theater. Ella no había ido al teatro. She had not gone to the theater. Había ido al teatro ella? Had she gone to the theater? Okay. Etc. So you can do all these. For example, her daughter spends a lot of money. Su hija gasta mucho dinero. Huh? So her daughter had spent a lot of money. When she came home, she said, Mom, I don't have any money. I've spent it all. Her daughter had spent a lot of money. Okay? Had her daughter spent a lot of money? Her daughter hadn't spent a lot of money, etc. Okay, so you fill in all these, all very important. Okay? Your grandfather. Your grandfather combines a lot of salt and sugar. Okay, o ensalada. Okay, su abuelo combina mucho sal y azúcar. Okay, uh, your grandfather had combined a lot of salt and sugar. So some of these are. Let's look. Let's see which are regular verbs and which are not. Okay, this is irregular. Spend, spent. Becomes is irregular. Became. Okay, and become. I had to become. Father pays, paid, had paid. This is regular. Had guessed. Okay, this is regular. Combined. Go is irregular. Go, went, gone. The Americans had gone to war. Okay, and it seems to be dead. Okay, it had seemed, so it's regular. The pen is worth. Well, the verb here is. Okay, the pen had been worth $1. Okay, we made the decision. Lots of irregular verbs. Okay, this is irregular. Henry had shaken the salt. This is regular. They had celebrated Christmas. Irregular. My relatives had bought a lot of toys. Drink is irregular. I had drunk. I had drunk coffee instead of tea. Okay, the student had spelt irregular. Okay. So, translate the following sentences to English. After listening to the recordings, repeat after the teacher. Look at the examples. He had finished. Anna's mother had drunk coffee. Okay? Had she dreamt? Had she dreamt? Okay, and there are lots and lots and lots of these. Okay? Really, really, really lots of them. Okay, and you have to translate them all. Okay? Okay? Ignacio hadn't worked before. I had doubted. Okay? She had slept for an hour when I arrived. She put okay. Had she put sugar in your coffee? Had she put sugar in your coffee? Okay. Oh, look at this one. El doctor había tenido. Okay. Bueno, había, we know this is going to be had. Okay. Had, because that's the form. The doctor had. Tenido is el verbo to have. And what is the past participle of el verbo to have? También, had. So the doctor had flu. Okay? Esto es correcto. El doctor, I'm going to write this one. Mira. The doctor had flu. What do you think? Does it sound strange to you? The doctor had flu. Before I went to see him, before he got better, the doctor had flu. He had flu on holiday for 2 weeks. Okay. That child had decided to go to the park. So these are lots and lots for you to look at. Okay. What's this one? Had she run a mile? Okay. Okay. Or the next one. The army had stopped the war. Huh? Or is it negative? We hadn't parked our car here. We hadn't parked our car here. Well, this one. The children had agreed to go to the party. Or the doctor had called the police. The doctor had called the police. Lots and lots here, okay? Okay, the girls had changed their dresses. Or this one. They hadn't cleaned the house. Okay, lots and lots of exercises. And then after this, go and do the exercises and the, well, forever, the test. Okay, lots for you to do. And take your time. There is no hurry. Okay, just take you a long time. Look on the internet. Look for different examples. Look for Spanish examples and translate them into English. Look for English examples and translate them into Spanish. Okay? Spend your time learning carefully and clearly. And I will see you for lesson 18. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.